less than 100. We'll doze for 1 second between, and we will do con dot should be send. Yeah, so let's yeah, let's just call send like that and see what happens. And I'll print it out. Sending message data. And let's see what it does. Sending message 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it looks like on UDP server message is getting called. Well, that's excellent. That was easier than I thought. Just make sure nothing explodes. Success, success, success. Alright. So it looks like that works. Let's go to our test connection. So we have socket.send. So what's the single direction? It's just host port, datagram socket, and we can just send to an address. And that's it. So that's probably what we should be doing, is we should be using this single directional UDP socket from our server, and then we'll do that. So what we need to do is we need to add a new call to our servers. Let's see, so this is going to be that'll call the client. So basically say like, hey, can you call this client on this port? And we'll do that like 5 times or something simple over the course of a couple seconds. Alright, so it's going to be services, definitions, services, info. Yeah, it's probably info. So why don't we add it there? The info service. Alright, so this will be an anonymous call. So this will be test UDP connectivity. Call 3, the request is going to be what host, and actually we're going to make it so it always sends it back to you. So there won't be a host, and the first thing will be a port, which is an integer, and there's not going to be a response. So it'll just be test UDP connectivity, just like that. So let's make that call. Line 23. What did I screw up? What? Oh, I see. I accidentally removed a brace. I'll add that back. Why don't we? We got this big autogen system, so when we add new service calls to our servers, it'll automatically create the JavaScript, C++, Java bindings for everything, so I don't have to go write a whole bunch of stuff. I can just use it. And once this thing catches up, yeah, there we go. Alright, this will be call to test UDP connectivity. So, start info, call to test UDP connectivity for, let's do call.getContext.getSource. Is it just source and sork IP? Alright. Actually, I don't want to have the, we'll do this for now. We'll log out that IP address real quick. But I don't like the, let's not. I don't like to log out anything to our logs that could be identifiable information like IP addresses and shit like that. Alright, so int if request.port equals null, then we're gonna return a fail, craft client error, bad port. If request dot, alright, yeah, let's just do int port equals request dot port. If port is less than 1024, or port is greater than or equal to 65525, then it's again a bad port. And what we want to do is create a WD single direction UDP connection, UDP-con. The host is going to be host equals request dot, it's not request, it's on the call object. Call dot get context dot sork IP. Host, and the port is going to be port. So UDP-con dot send, and we'll just have a test message. Hello, Frosty Hez. How am I doing? I'm doing well. Since the last time I think you were in stream, we launched our game. So that's now live for people. And we're working on, we released the first update last weekend, which really helped a lot of stuff. We had some pretty bad performance problems, especially on the servers, and we fixed those, so that was a good thing. Released a new map, and we're working on the second update, which will be at the end of this month. Hopefully we'll be able to get another map and all the dedicated server stuff that everybody, so people can host their own amazing things, spawn bots and vote for things like, I want to play on this map next. Alright, so our test message should be pretty simple. Why don't we just do something real dumb? like string test message equals this is a test. And why don't we just do a simple thing? We'll send like maybe 4 or 5. So yeah, we'll send 5 messages. Let's see, test message number wd.c.getInt. Let's see. What would we put for this config if we were actually going to use it? Let's see, it'd probably be services.info.testmessages. Is it service or services? Yeah, right. So services.info.test connection test dot message num. Defaulted to 5, and then long sleep time. Let's see, get long services.info connection test dot sleep time. Let's do 250L. Oh, nice, good job. Yeah, thank you. Our goal was to release in 2017, and we released it on the 24th, which met our goal. So we were pretty psyched that we were able to get it going. And it's actually been pretty good. Like, we haven't had any massive issues, and we're starting to get stuff all nicely battened down. Community feedback so far on the forums, it's just been a lot of small bug reports and stuff like that. It's like, let's go check the forums. Yeah, somebody posting Viagra links again. This forum account is now banned. Goodbye. And since we're kind of finished with our kind of the crunch time to get to actual ship, I'm back streaming because it's not quite so ridiculous. Oh yeah, I haven't seen the horror game in a really long time. So how is that going? So you're getting advanced interactions. The player can open the door with doors, interact with valves and switches, key cards, full animation and tracking. That sounds pretty awesome. I mean, what horror game doesn't have, like, go collect the raven and put it on the pedestal and, you know, open secret door and out jumps all sorts of bad monsters. Or out jumps nothing and you're like, ah, shit, where'd it go? Oh, so I actually have to, like, do this whole thing. It's offset then length, right? Alright, offset length, awesome. Alright, so we'll sleep, and then after that we're done. So I can just call this test UDP connectivity. It'll prompt the server to send us stuff. Let's start our database. There we go. Alright, so our local server is up and running. I told you to just reload the solution. Can't reload it again. You're already reloading it. So what we want to do is we want to put a button in the UI, probably in the host game screen, which has a test my connectivity, and it'll call the game utils, which calls the game instance, which will spin up the thing for like 5 seconds. Yeah, it'll spin it up for a certain amount of time, and after a certain amount of time, it will call back and say we're able to. It'll start a test. All right, so we'll have like start test and if testing. We'll have a little bit of logic there. Alternatively, I could add a blueprint object and do that, but this is a non-level specific thing, so I don't want to do any of that. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun playing with people in the community with the game. When we released our last update, the game is 3v3 right now, but we got like 20 people in one game. It was madness. Yeah, it was like I think one of my favorite games was Condemned for horror games, and yeah. That was a big part of it. Everything is interactive, like, the whole thing where you like pull out your phone and all that sort of stuff was just great. Then yeah, immersion with horror games that's the whole thing, right? Like, as soon as that suspension of disbelief gets broken with a horror game, it turns into a comedy almost. You're just like, yeah, great. It's like you're playing Doom 3 and you're like, there's going to be another goddamn imp around the corner. I'm going to be so surprised when I open this door and there's going to be another stupid imp sitting there. You're there with your shotgun out like, come on, just and then, you're not scared, you're just frustrated that the door opened a half second before you clicked the fire button or something. Yeah, but that was one of the things recently here in town, and by recently I mean like 2 months ago, because that's recently, right? I went to a thing where the makers of the what the hell is the name of the game? Yeah, the people who made Abduction were there because they're in town here, and they were talking about exactly what you're talking about, which is having virtual reality stuff is kind of what they're working on now for Abduction, and a big part of it was getting it so like you actually like turn the wheel on something, or you walk if you're getting into a minecart that like the camera flies over and stuff like that. And they had a massive problem with the minecart because like normally just like it was real nice and you'd fly the camera over there, but if it's VR, all of a sudden like people are getting sick because of it, because it's just like so they would do something like you get to the minecart and then it would just, like fade in and fade out with you in the cart, and it's like, they were not happy about that. Alright, so what we want to do is create the test stuff. So it's on the game instance because we're being lazy right now, so alright, so let's do something very simple. So float yeah, let's just do So NAT test server in 32 now. So we have our NAT test server. We have like bool im running NAT test. I guess yeah. So float im NAT test end time. Well, that should be enough. And every time you call run test, it just like extends it for another 5 seconds or something. Alright, so we're going to have void start NAT test. We're going to take int32 port, and let's take a duration. You think? How are they making the player move in-game teleport? That kind of ruins it. Yeah, that's. Well, they're not doing a horror game at least, but you know they're the makers of Myst and Riven and all that, so immersion is a big deal for them. So I think they're having players teleport and things like that. They didn't really make it for room scale because there's some issues with room scale with what they've got. Like, one of the problems is they have a lot of areas with like staircases. Yeah, the teleport mechanic in VR games, like I saw that and I was just like, this is, yeah, isn't that, you know, you're just like, yeah, this is the early stuff. This needs to be solved. Alright, so u-dashkin time utils get real process time f. So that'll be float now. So if now is greater than or equal to end time, then we want to if im nat test server does not equal null pointer, nat test server shut down, true, delete, and set. Yeah, so like with the room scale stuff, if you're like on a narrow staircase, they could like walk out into nothingness and not fall, and or like walking up and down stairs, like just doesn't work. Yeah, so if you just like swing your arms around like some crazy man, and your character walks. I think it also might be something that people might have to grow up with, right? Like, I mean, it might just be one of those things where it's like people using thumbsticks for first-person shooters, right? Like, kind of people over time have been trained. Like, the thumbsticks are not a good solution for, first-person shooter controls. They're just inferior to like a mouse and keyboard or some other thing, but they work, so that's what they got. So I think maybe we just need a population that gets a little bit trained up on that. They got to go through their puke phase. Either that, or we all need to invest in giant water tanks, and we just you're like, oh yeah, that's the VR room, and it's just like this giant pool full of lukewarm water that you jump into and move around. We'll all be wearing spacesuits. Alright, so if the NAT test server already exists, we're just going to return and be like, you can't start a test if the test's already running, so stop being a jerk. Alright, so we're going to say new Dashkin UDP test server. How do we make this before? We got a report. Alright. Because this thing doesn't need to be super complicated. It just needs to exist. Alright. Starting up NAT test server on port. So we'll set our callbacks, we'll start our thing up, and it's running. Awesome. We need to set our end, so we need now. So NAT test end time equals now plus duration. So that should do it. Not sure if your idea is currently possible. We learn to accept it. Yeah, I guess it's kind of also like some people are just easily motion sick. It might be, you know, like some people can't even ride in cars for very long, driven by other people without getting super sick. So I don't know. Maybe one of those things where VR ultimately can only, there's only a certain limitation, and or some members of the population will just have to suck it up. Alright, so update our NAT test. Actually, why don't we just, if NAT test server equals null pointer, we'll just return. And why don't I also log out that info log shutting down NAT test. M32 m NAT test pings. So in NAT test pings equals 0 on UDP server message. Let me just increment the pings. So if we're finished here, then we're going to call like u-dashkin game utils notify NAT test finished, and then we'll say NAT test pings. And that'll be that. So let's go to our tick. So we have start NAT test, update NAT test, all these sorts of things. Okay, cool. And then game utils will have to have our function. Why do you have arcade machines with House of the Dead for? Because of what G did. That's why. It's because some people love House of the Dead. And I mean that equipment's expensive, and you also got to take into account like who actually uses all those machines and who maintains them, right? Like let's say you spent like $3,000 on like some super awesome arcade machine that you're gonna run, and then some fucking 10-year-old comes over and just spits in the headset or scratches something. The thing's broken, and you're screwed. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's too finicky. Somebody will break it, and you'll never get your money back. And what are you gonna do? Like some 10-year-old kid running around an arcade, breaking stuff? You really gonna get your money out of that kid? I don't think it's gonna happen. All right, static void start NAT test. Let's do N32 port and float duration, and then we'll have static void notify NAT test finished. and 32 pings. Ah, here we go. Stat them right in here. Like, I could see an arcade place that was maybe more upscale, that had qualified staff and catered to adults that could do VR stuff. Like, that could work. But nothing geared towards kids. They'll just break the damn thing. It's like, you know, DDR and all that, like when that was popular in arcades. Those things are like made of steel and wood and, you know, ridiculous. And people still break the hell out of them. Alright, so Dashkin game instance get stance equals this. Stance is no pointer. Then we're just gonna call finished with 0. Otherwise, stance start net test, port duration, notify net test finished. It's going to be notify net test finished, and then we're going to append our thing. How do you do toString? It's like int to fstring in real. I always forget. It's like fc string, like from int or some crap. Yeah, fstring from int. Alright. Good enough. Nobody cares. Alright, so that should do our net test stuff. Our game instance, though, is going to need to, after we've started up our net test server, is going to need to call the platform and tell it to do the test. So we're going to want, we're not going to want to add a callback. It's going to be in the info stuff. So do we already have an info include here? No, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, something like that. It probably worked where you charge a good chunk of money, have a good product, and cater to the right crowd. I mean, the other thing would be like if you're going to invest in a big arcade system for VR, like the industry is not settled on stuff, so somebody might be like, well, I'm not going to pay 25 bucks for something that's not state of the art. It's something new just came out yesterday. It's kind of funny, like, you know, people for digital entertainment usually balk at prices that are pretty reasonable. Like going out to dinner, $70. Oh, that's a great deal. Going out and playing a video game for $5? Hell no. Alright, so we need to include the generated service stuff. So it's going to be Dashkin info HTTP. see, what does this look like? Test UDP connectivity. No callback. Okay. So we're going to need to get the platform. I think we can get that off of the platform manager. So yeah, Dashkin platform manager, get platform. So if platform equals null pointer, just return. Alright, so we need the platform. We're going to need a uinfo test UDP connectivity request. Uinfo. So request set port is going to be port request. Is that it? Is that all we got to do? All right. Yeah, I know one guy who spends way too much time playing Elite Dangerous. But he's got the VR hookups and pretty sweet machine and all the joysticks and wheels and stuff. And he also plays a bunch of racing games, so that sort of stuff works out real well. It's because that's where I think people have been all trained up, right? Like people are trained to be in cars and in moving vehicles, and disconnecting their inner ear from what's actually going around them. They're not used to being in their standard fleshy meat suits, though, and disregarding their inner ear. Alright, so this will do this stuff. So it should actually tell us now. So we want to go to our host screen. And let's hook this up in game. So in our UI, that is. So screens, gameplay. Should it be multiplayer main menu, or should it be the host screen? I think it'll be the host screen that we actually care about. So let's see, what does this page even look like at the moment? Multiplayer, create a game. Or should we have it inside of the online status? I think inside the host makes the most sense. And we should probably just have it like right here. Like test my connectivity. Multiplayer join. Join what? Multiplayer host test button. Hello, Adam. Wish you could just stop in place. Yeah, that's true. It's like you just teleport in place, get dual pistols, and pew 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 pew. What I'm working on right now, Adam, is I'm working on a port forwarding test thing. So basically, people on the host screen can actually click a button, and the platform will call them on that port and see if they're even available to be connected to. Lucas is having lots of problems setting up his port forwarding and testing it, and while I don't think we're going to be able to solve everybody's problems, we can at least make it so we don't have to rely on Karakin to like join your server to figure out if you got crap set up properly. So that's kind of why I'm setting this up. So at least Lucas could sit there by himself and suffer instead of including other people in his suffering. And, you know, maybe you can iterate on things faster instead of waiting and having bad information. Multiplayer host test. Alright, so this.on test connectivity clicked. And we're going to need that CSS. So it goes 12, 18, 24. We're jumping by 6. So 30 vmin for the back button. Test connectivity. There we go. And when we click it on test connectivity, click. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, it's kind of also one of those things where I'm trying to figure out. It may be that we can set up UDP rebroadcasters for some of that, where you could set up like some shim there where you're actually rebroadcasting through Germany or something. And they can be kind of simple, but I don't know if I can finagle Unreal to work with it, or even if it'd really be worth much. But if we were like a AAA studio and you wanted dedicated servers to work on hosts, you'd set up UDP rebroadcast stuff, and it'd add another 20 milliseconds to your ping or whatever probably, but it would guarantee that anybody can host their own match on their box and they'd still connect, even if they didn't know port forwarding shenaniganry. Alright, so if the net test is in progress, we'll create a loading dialog. Attention, performing test. Yeah, I'll just say performing test. What the fuck is true? Is if it's cancelable? This is not cancelable. Screw it, you're gonna wait 5 seconds. Alright, so if G in game, otherwise dialog.request close. Screw it, we don't care. So what did I name this function? I named it startNet test. And we want the port, so we need to get the port. Let's see. Attempting host. Start hosting. What is sync options? Alright, so dat.game port. Alright, so we need the port. Why don't we just call sync options anyway? Okay, so attempting to begin NAT test on the game port. And the duration, let's just do 5.0f for now. Well, let's add it to the globals, because we need to do that anyway. Xvar event NAT test finished equals BS NTF. And we'll need our NAT test duration 5.0f. Do we even have Fs in JavaScript? Probably not. There is no respect for JavaScript. Alright, so dat.game port and duration. Let's just get rid of that crap. Let's change this to this.m NAT loading dialog. And we're going to want to register for event, so this dot register for event NAT finished function event name data. Alright, so this if this dot NAT loading dialog does not equal null, this dot request close, and then we'll set it to null, and we'll also say this NAT test in progress is false. So if data is greater than 0, dialog create info. Success, you online connectivity verified, else failure, unable to connect to your local machine. Please check your port forwarding settings and local firewalls. Okay, so that we need to actually have a notify function here then, which is going to come from the game. So game utils Notify net test finished with the number of pings that successfully executed. Dashkin gameplay prototype this is function pings. So let's see, where is our on event? And we're just going to send pings. And we need to make sure we send the correct event. Alright, let's make sure our JavaScript is all compiling properly. It is not 2302, 2302. Yeah, we should spell Dashkin gameplay properly if we want to define a function, don't we? Multiplayer host screen line 65 is fucked. Okay, so that supposedly does what we do. Alright, thanks Frosty Hez. Good luck on the rest of your horror game. When do you think you'll have something that people can knock around with and test down? Or is it already out there and I just didn't know? Because I'm too wrapped up in my own world, which is important to me. So you're having trouble. Hello, Evo Streams. How's Dashkin coming along? It's coming along pretty well. We're in early access now, so you can actually get the game on the website, or you can participate in one of our playtests when we do a release, and you might get a free code. But yeah, it's doing real well. We're working on the second update and doing that stuff. So you were saying there that you're having some issues with the build. It says generic USB controller access issues. So all those are supposed to be defined properly. I mean, the build machine works. So everything should compile. It's got to be something, that is different with your machine, and not the build machine. So let me think. Yeah, Adam, the artist, is Claude in chat there. So let's see. I need to put up the game and do that. So I'm trying to think what your issue would be. I mean, you got all the files, right? Like, you're not missing anything. So let me see. Because, like, you got latest, I'm assuming. So the things to check would be if the project file because the project file right now has raw input enabled. So raw input is the thing that you're having trouble with, is the raw input plugin. Linker error there means jump on voice chat. Yeah, well, we could do that in just a second. I'd like to test this out real quick to see if it works. Failed to receive data. Unable to connect your local machine. No, why? Alright, executing test UDP connectivity. Starting up NAT test on server 7777. So give me just like 3 minutes or something. I just want to double check this. I'm pretty sure this is going to be that we're testing on a port that we've already bound, so I'm just going to do like 7070 like I was doing before. On UDP error message, failed to receive data once again. Alright, starting up NAT test server on 7070 on UDP error, failed to receive data. Alright, so our address is correct on the server, and we've sent all the things, so it's going to be something wrong with our actual server that we've made. Shutting down that test server. Let's try it one more time. UDP error message 1240. Failed to receive data. So I'll just spend another minute on this and then I'll switch over regardless. So we set the callbacks, we started it up, and we sent our request. Starting up NAT test server in 7070, yes. Well, let's see, I wrote that UDP tester, and I can just have this thing sitting here pinging. So we're sending our messages right now to 7070 on UDP server message. Online connectivity verified. Alright, so something is broken with my server stuff, but the otherwise, it looks like it just takes a couple seconds to actually get the server set up. Like it's failing, but then it succeeds after like a couple seconds or something. So